Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. As we approach the weekend, Bitcoin seems to be on its way for a retest of the breakout. This time is the price, the one that needs to test. During the week, we already had the retest of the RSIs. We'll have a look at that and a bunch of things that have changed overnight in terms of news as well that I want to share with you. Price seems to be holding the retest, and we got a good argument to go up to at least 110. There some interesting motivation that I want to share with you guys. Guys, if you like this type of content, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I put out one of these videos. This morning, I just released the private elite session that we had yesterday with my Patreon members. In the title, you can see just some of the coins that we did live TA. If you want to join that, you can join my Patreon link in the description. I've got a new campaign on bluffing as well. This one ends on the 23rd of July. You can see for each sort of deposit how much you can get in bonuses. This is a non-KYC exchange, so you can get yourself an account using the link in the description, enjoy the bonuses, and get to trade Bitcoin and altcoins from anywhere in the world with leverage. Well, as you can see in this picture, yesterday was supposedly, according to Goldman, the top 2 best day of the year. This is based on statistics, of course, and its past performance, which doesn't need to repeat. But as you can see, beginning of July tends to be really good. Notice that all the months of summer, May, June tend to have a lot of red in the past. This is not based on crypto, it's mostly based on general markets. But actually, some of these statistics are currently upside down so far in this year. So just take it with a grain of salt. If you wonder what is the best day of the year, statistically speaking, that is around the 19th of October. And that's why people call it Uptober. Something to keep an eye on, particularly if you're looking for the S&P, the Nasdaq, and American stocks. Watch out with this metric that says that foreign investors are diversifying out of US stocks. This is specifically overseas that were withdrawing $5 billion out of US equities ETFs over the last month. And this is a follow-up with additional $5 billion that happened during the month of May. Interesting to see this divergence because since then the market has recovered and put new all-time highs. I strongly encourage you that regardless of you being fully focused on crypto or altcoins, have a look at the stock disturbing rally. It is a video that is going to reveal a big question mark that we need to put on the table and eventually manage to answer. It's not gonna give you the final answer. There are no certainties in trading or investing, but there is some aspects that are pretty disturbing about the rally that we're currently seeing, particularly when comparing to previous cycles. And yes, I'm talking about general market cycles that are kind of aligned with the crypto ones. And apparently the beautiful bill has been already signed and accepted. Let me know in the comments if there's anything missing. As far as I know, it's all good to go. And I forgot to mention in yesterday's video, but we finally have the June jobs report, which came in stronger than expected. The economy added 147,000 new jobs, beating the estimates of 111 only. And this follows up with an upwards revision for May, 5,000 additional. So that means the unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, better than the estimates of 4.3. Remember that one of the motivations to cut rates is if there's something wrong with the unemployment, meaning that it needs to be increasing to push towards a rate cut. With this particular reading, we're going in the opposite direction. That means that there is not something really breaking in the economy, therefore there is less incentive to cut rates, apart from having Trump on your back shouting at you, insulting you on a daily basis, and even pushing you to quit your job. And I'm talking about Powell. You can see one image says everything. And yes, of course, Trump wants him to cut the rates, claiming that there is not inflation or no longer inflation. The 10-year note surges for 36% after the June jobs report crushes expectations. That's an immediate reaction of the reading yesterday. Completely unrelated, but I still want you to be aware about this. There's tons of influencers talking about the long-term holders increasing, and there is that contradiction because many other platforms like CryptoQuant and Glassnode are pointing out towards the opposite, that long-term holders are actually distributing at least the biggest cohorts. ETF bought 377k BTC, MicroStrategy bought 371, but the apparent demand is down 857. To break all-time highs, at least in theory, we need to compensate for that distribution that brings in around 100 extra of selling pressure. You can see graphically in here the demand contracting versus the inflows on ETFs and MicroStrategy. And if you go back in time, you can see that that was not the case during the megaphone pattern or during the recent pump into the previous all-time high. We got this interesting chart that is starting to be copycat by everybody, and I want you to be aware. I will say this is the second place against the people copycatting the chart about global liquidity. Pretty much every single major account has posted that. Now they're starting to post this one, calling for that precise all-time high and a potential rejection. It's an interesting one, and it might be a little bit too obvious to play out. Honestly, I don't know. And as I've been mentioning, this one is the Greed and Fear Index, but related to the stock market. So just a reminder that we are with that background activity in the stock market being in extreme greed. Why can't Bitcoin price break 112 all-time highs? There's an analyst explaining this. The absence of new buyers and FOMO-driven greed are key factors that could keep Bitcoin price pinned below 112 longer than many think. We did tap 110 a couple of times, but low spot buying demand suggests the upside could be limited. High retail FOMO and near overbought RSI signals a potential BTC price correction. A bit disappointed that this is going in the main page of Cointelegraph, because the edge is that we know that and they don't. If they start knowing that, instead of buying and keeping the price high so we can build a short with bigger volume from the top, we might start seeing a little bit of pullback in here with just the initial order, which is not necessarily my full plan, but it's okay. Let's have a look at this chart that seems pretty interesting, and it comes from Swissblock. As you can see in the recent price action around the highs that we've been trading sideways, you can compare the upper end of the oscillator, that is the net buying, the lower end is the net selling, and you can see that there is a lot more activity when it comes to the net selling, whether at profit or at a loss, but still is net selling. In the previous double top, when we corrected from around 105 as well, you can see that there is a very similar effect, right? You got a little bit of buying in here activity, but mostly distribution. And that ends up causing that the price pukes into new lows. That is not the case during the pump. Of course, we have these big peaks of accumulation at the lows, and that eventually pushes the price for a breakout. Here in my Telegram channel, you can see what coins I covered yesterday, so you can have a look at them. And don't forget, if you are an elite member, you get a nice post in your email with the summary of everything that was said during the long live session. You can join using this particular link and even have a look at the charts if you click see charts in here. That's for free. To join my Telegram, the link is in the description. Please do not search for my channel, because even on Google, you're gonna find the first 100 results are all gonna be scammers. And this, guys, is a big news, okay? I want you to take a seat, grab a seat, get a coffee, calm down, and I'm gonna show you something revealing in here. This is the Federal Reserve balance sheet. And just now, I have a new reading. And unfortunately, this is breaking down so far. It's just a breakdown. We can still recover from this, but this means that they are reducing their balance sheet. This goes against the idea of eventually getting into quantitative easing. And it signs a lack of belief from the Federal Reserve at the moment. Of course, if they change the management, this might change overnight. But so far, this is breaking down. The only good thing is we have equal lows at $3.22 trillion. We have a new low in here, a lower high, and we couldn't hold the channel to the upside. That is something that has happened in channels to the upside, but more than two eyes need to stay on this trend. What we don't want to see is that we form a channel to the downside like this. Remember that with the beginning of this channel down, We top at 73, and from that point we went to 49k within this channel down. So don't underestimate what it means. If we continue with this trend in a channel down, that means Fed doesn't believe in what's to come for the markets. They decrease, they are selling, and it's not just what they do, it's what the rest of the people see in this pattern today and how they react to that, because many people mimic what the Federal Reserve is doing. On the positive side, the aggregated open interest is now at highs of 35 billion. That is a level of resistance. Right above that, we have the final resistance at 36.5 billion. So that means that we still have some headroom for the aggregated open interest to add a bit more. But that is a heavy resistance, is one that we already lost. And as I said, there's low likelihood that we break in this direction. What we can do, of course, is get a rejection and then try again from below, something like this. What is low likely is a breakout like this in this direction, that easy. Of course, if we do that, we can go into 140 and 150, get into the 40 to 50 billion dollars of aggregated interest across all the exchanges. There is a reason why I monitor this more often these days, because it's a bullish breakout. So watch out, we got a bullish breakout, we could go higher, but we got incoming two resistance that are very important. And when it comes to CME futures, we got a new tiny microscopic CME gap that got printed on premium at 110.135 and on Binance is 109.488. So keep that number in mind. 109.5 could be the reason why now we are moving back up into closing that gap. Now, you are watching the right channel. All you haven't done right is not to click the subscribe button, not to share the video with your friends. You are a very bad friend. Your friends are trading like crap. They are getting wrecked. And you could be that friend that shares the channel with them so they finally learn and they do something good for themselves. Now, let me show you why. If you look at Bookmap, you can see that right there at 109,500, we have 400 in volume. That comes from aggregated volume from Binance Futures, Bybit, OKX, and BitGet. And if you wonder if you can get access to Bookmap, which is the king of order book data live, not just for crypto or stocks, you can have a look at my link. The QR code is appearing on the screen and the link is in the description. Today is 4th of July up until the 11th of July. You can get 40% discount on Bookmap. It's absolutely worth if you are trading with this. The only downside, well, you cannot open it on mobile. So for that, I use Trading Light, I use other things. But order book, Bookmap is a dinosaur of data. It's the biggest beast that you can get. So there is right now a lot of bidding going on and aggressive buying. So the CBD is now flipping into green. So that means that there was red in here. That means that there was aggressive selling, but that's just flipping into green. And I suspect that even while I'm talking now, we might get into there. That is something that looks pretty evident thanks to looking at the order book. If you just look at the price action, yeah, you got the patterns and everything, but you really don't know what they're doing and you cannot quantify it. So obviously we have a neckline around here. Let me place it like this. That is 109.2. But on Binance is at 108.6. We have been already there holding and we are building some sort of topping formation, right? I don't care if it's a cup and handle inverse, if it's a double top, nothing is not very clear. We also have one in here, remember? We trade this one and people were mocking us for calling for a double top, but the technical target got perfectly hit. We took profits at 106. Some of my members got the profits at 105. I published that in a Patreon article. So that's why it's important now, if we do another liquidity hand and we go higher into all-time high, to keep an eye there. Or if we just go into the CME gap and then we fail with a head and shoulder and we achieve the technical target somewhere at around 107, 108. Definitely important, but let's not rush any decision yet, because I got also some other data that I want to share with you before we move on. Bitcoin status hasn't changed. We are just there at the range top on the 4-hour. The RSI breakout is intact. The retest is completed on the RSI. Now the price is doing that, and we're going to look into that. So on the 4-hour, I have changed my limits, my levels that are important to look at. So the line here got moved from being something like this. I move it into here. Now we have resistance at 67, at 73, and at 83. That is the let's go banana sun or sun or however you want to mock me. And notice that the previous time that we were at the median, when we were at 53 RSI, we held the median for a few bars in here. That's where we went and we started talking about that potential double top. I put the video at the median and I say, watch out, because we could liquidity hand a little bit lower and then go back up, or we could achieve the technical target. We gave it the technical target of 105. We perfectly achieved it. And now we are back in here at the resistance. The resistance pushes back down into the median right after forming another bearish pattern. So are we going to repeat the same behavior and go back down into 107 or somewhere like that? We'll have to keep monitoring. Of course, if the median holds, we got that upside into 67 or into 73. So let's look into those prices to see where they are. So the first resistance is at 111,144 and the second one is at 113. That corresponds with the green one this time. And then the top one, the one that is from the long-term descending momentum that you can see in here at 90, 85, and then we got 83, that one points today at 120. But of course, we need to look up for the risk as well. The risk is part of our lives. We are traders. We don't only look up for the higher targets of longs. We look for shorts and we look for risk. And yesterday, I placed this dotted line, if you can remember, and I say that it has been significantly respected multiple times across all this range. And since we were approaching it, I told you to watch out for that level, and I'm so glad because I saw one person that told me that they entered at that line. I didn't enter at that line. I'm already in a position and I'm not willing to scale up so close to my entry. But by the dollar, we hit 110.583. I also mentioned that there is a chance that we go and we hit it again and then again, because, you know, it's been respected multiple times. Of course, we've been above that, but now the trading has almost all the time occurred below it. So let's see if we can do something like that. If we hold the median on the RSI and we get the move into the next resistance, we get that 111 right there at the dotted line once again. On the lower end, of course, keep an eye for 24 because that is at the moment 101.2. On CPR, there are no news. We're just in the middle between the pivots and the first resistance at 112. On the daily RSI, we are rolling over. We are slowing down the momentum. Sure, that's absolutely true, but we haven't put neither a lower low, neither a lower high. We still have a good structure, higher high, higher low. Good for this, but we need to speed up the momentum, okay? We need something decent now, a move into 64 or something like that. And no one has wrote that in the comments, and you should, to practice. We need a line to defend right below the RSI. We need to transfer this in here to 55. So let's go in the daily and let's update the support. Instead of 47, which is just too low, we already went to test that. So now the next task is test 55. 55, 32, got it. And that support is the first line of defense. Of course, that line is slightly above the volume profile, right? This is my volume profile on the daily. And what do we want? We want to not repeat what we have been failing every time that we are above the volume profile top of the range, which is to retest this 107.8 and to hold it this time, right? We don't want to go back down into the point of control. We don't want to be building double tops or anything like that. We want to hold these levels And we also want to break out from this double bottom. Let me draw it for you because the price action in here is almost impossible to understand. But there is a double bottom in here, and it's got a pretty high target of 121. So let's defend that neckline, let's defend the top range of the volume profile, and we secure ourselves to maintain the upside. The volume has been coming down, we got that against us, and we got a bunch of events in the news that are a bit concerning in terms of geopolitical tensions and stuff like that I'm not gonna mention in the video. I'm already shadow banned enough by YouTube, so I'm gonna be a good boy here and not talk about anything that is part of the reality. On the weekly, you can see that we are not above the highest close weekly ever for Bitcoin. We are below the line of 108.9. So ideally, when we approach Sunday, you want to be above that. You want to be above 109. We want to be 110, 11, 12, anything like that, even if it's a humble move. That's number one wish for this weekend. Number two is if we go up, don't get too excited, but if we go up, let's say we hit 115 like this, and we come back down and we close Sunday with a body like this, right? That looks too much like a liquidity hunt. Market maker sometimes goes into that liquidity. Which one? Are you living under a rock? We are with a ton of liquidity above the price. So if market maker goes here, grabs that and goes back below 109, and maybe I want a little bit lower than that for a close weekly, then we create a huge narrative to rally back down into the bull market support band at 98 sitting at the moment. The lower band is at 95.5. So if we went over the weekend and we have a rally, well, we need to deal with CME, new gap, in that case, a bearish one. But if we rally over the weekend, let's close above it, okay? If we don't rally and we stay here, is okay. It's like, let's delay things, everything is fine. But if we go up, let's not lose it. That, I think, is the key. So as we approach Sunday, we could see a bullish cross coming in next week. Particularly if we rally now and we stay there, we can settle that cross before Sunday. If we stay at these prices, we still don't have a cross. You can see, oh, we do have a cross at this price because the orange is 75.45 and the blue is 75.75. Sorry about that, but we have a cross. So if we can defend this price, the cross stays. If we go a little bit deeper into 107 and we close at 107, we might not have it just because there is millimeters away from losing the bull cross. On the monthly, this is the yearly, things are looking in the green. I wanted to look into the monthly, that is also in green. That's the fourth candle in green with decreasing volume, which is the bad side of the story. I haven't mentioned it because there's no changes, but the hash ribbons is still with the mouth open, so the hash rate hasn't recovered yet. That means that we still don't get the buy signal and things are quiet. There is an AK outflow, which indicates something bullish, but I also got some notifications which I haven't had the chance to look in depth, but I think there were some additional new moves from long-term wallets. So I'll keep that for the video for tomorrow because I need to analyze that. On the 3rd of July, we have 600 increase in Bitcoin ETF. Really impressive. We are in grid at 73. We are forming topping patterns in here, right underneath the short-term liquidity. We got away, we crossing all the vacuum of liquidity, but we still don't hit it. As I've been saying in these days, I think as soon as we get a quieter environment without any FUD coming in, we can take that. You can see that the resistance yesterday was moved into 112 and they move it back down, but they move it back down not necessarily to where it was, very close to the price at 110. Now they place it between high 110s and 111. Let's look at the 30-day. The 109 big boss that remained for the whole week is gone. Rest in peace. Now we have 111 at the same highs at 103. But of course, 103 is way deeper, further away from the price. It takes a lot more energy to get us there. 111 is very close to the price, and I think is within the reach based on the resistance that we talk about, right? So we have that 67 there that only takes one reach of a hand, and you can take 111 and meet with the dotted line again. So technically it's doable. All we have to do now is defend this double top, meaning not breaking down the neckline and carry on into 107, 5 or 3. Ideally, we could go a little bit lower into 108.5, somewhere there where there's still liquidity, trap shorts and use that to catapult the price into this resistance of 67. After all, Fridays, we tend to see some rallies on Fridays right before the close. And that could happen once again today. It's not guaranteed, but be aware. And yet we haven't had any sort of short squeeze that is pretty evident. The price is not pumping, the volume is declining, and we're just kind of going sideways underneath the all-time high. And that is also evident by looking at liquidations. This is even less than the short liquidation we have on the 23rd of June. An actual short squeeze, instead of this being 45,000, it should go way beyond into 1 billion or so. Let's look at the order book as we approach the weekend. You can see that, 110 was resistance. It got pinched. They move it away partially into 112. We saw that they move it back into 111. Now the price is forming this top information. There is some resistance then at 115. The green positions, the smallest ones, are kind of pointing down. Purple as well, everything pointing down. And brown is slowly and steadily increasing. We can see the order book in here, the perfect placement on Market Monkey Terminal. Let's look at High Block Capital. As the price comes back down, the longs are coming back in to 35 from lows of 30. That is very low in terms of longs. The selling wall of 5% deviation is gone and now it's starting to flip into the positive. If we focus on the bid-ask ratio at different deviations, we are no longer in this area where there was nothing of support. Now we got a good decent support, we could say. At 10% we have 74, that is decent support. At 5%, 60 percentile. Mediocre, but okay, much better than before. And it is 1% the one that is aggressively holding the price at the moment with 98 percentile. I don't necessarily see it in here, so I wonder, because this is Binance, so maybe it's in another exchange, because this aggregates multiple exchanges. At 2% of the price, we got a 64, so again, most of the deviations are leaned towards defending the current price rather than letting it go much deeper. So I wonder if they're doing that to get that liquidity of the CME gap, or what else is attracting the price at the moment. There are some fair value gaps. We'll look into them. That could be it as well. The cumulative delta is now in the positive with longs at higher risk, but definitely there is something odd with the number. It says 6 billion in delta. That is absolutely impossible. The range of this tool is usually within thousands, and that's it. And my signal from Anchor CBD is now showing that it ended signaling. That is usually calling for a local top, but it fails during banana zone. It tends to work with sideways. Remember that this signal, I'm going to start sharing it in my videos more often along with Bookmap. Those are all paid subscriptions. Of course, I get invited for free. I get spoiled, but they are pretty expensive, particularly the High Block Capital Professional is very expensive, but it's absolutely worth it if you are going to use the alpha from these indicators. Pretty much only hedge funds and the trading parrot now has access to this, and you are the privileged bastard that now is going to have access to it too. So subscribe, hit the like, and write a comment down below if you appreciate that. Let me know if you want me to invite one of the founders of High Block Capital. Vinny is really knowledgeable. He gave me a lesson on all the things that you can do with High Block Capital, and I'm still blown away. I have a long list of indicators that I need to learn how to use, and I don't have enough time. We have some fair value gaps going up into 109.5 that overlaps with the CME gap, and it could be the reason why we're going up. Remember, we might want to go up because we are retesting the breakout on the daily. Let me remove these lines. We have a breakout from the double bottom that we have in here, but there is another pattern, right? We get this line in there, and you can see that we are also retesting the breakout. That is the preferred pattern that I'm seeing the most from retail. Crypto banter is looking into that sort of retail level we're talking about. Then you got the double bottom and targets of 121. Price could go up in here and carry on into the breakout. After all, we have all that liquidity. It's doable, but it could also just clean the imbalances and then go for the lower imbalances and leave all retail thinking, oh, wait a minute, wasn't it gonna be that easy as just a breakout from that trendline resistance? Oh no, it failed again. And then they have a 50x with liquidity right at 105, 107, which is where we could potentially take profits if the short plays out. Oh yeah, I am in a short, and of course my Patreon members are well informed with occasional articles every time I change something about my positions. If I don't change anything, of course, there's no update. I'm not gonna send an article just saying, oh, the price moved $500 up and I haven't done anything. That's not necessary. But believe it or not, some of them want that. That's why I'm saying it. General markets closed very in the green yesterday, but crypto is not happy today. Nasdaq and S&P pretty good. S&P new all-time highs. We just need to watch out with the resistance that we are now currently about to hit on the 2-weekly chart on the S&P. That's precisely that point. I've seen other charts from other people doing S&P against yen from Japan, and they show a lot more scary patterns. If you haven't watched this video, you are really doing a big damage to yourself. Go and watch Stocks Disturbing Rally even before you go for altcoins TA. I think the general market is a lot more important right now. Let's wrap it up. We have a good chance that we do a retest on the daily, on the 4-hour. At the median of the 4-hour is a perfect recipe for potentially go into the next resistance and hit 111. There is good liquidity there and all of that, but what we need to be watching out with the other eye, if you have a secondary eye that's good for you, there are a bit of events that could reveal over the weekend, and it could cause a bit of a shake at the prices where we are. So if that happens, be prepared for that. I guess that is the message. There is no forecast, and there will never be a forecast in this channel. So if that plays out, I'll take profits from my short, or I will look for areas to take profits. And if we go higher into the levels of resistance I mentioned, I will do a video tomorrow updating you on what's the state of that and whether we can enter into banana zone, whatever. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.